Has this ever happened to you?
Okay, this video is going to be a little bit different because today we're going to be doing a little bit of how-to instead of something silly and dumb. So this video we're going to be talking about 3 methods to fix the P0400 code you may get on a Subaru equipped with the EJ253 engine. Okay, so method 1 is going to be, is your EGR valve seized, stuck, is the motor seized, or does it just need to be replaced? This is the simplest way to fix this code if you have this issue. It doesn't actually happen often, but there is a valve that moves with a spring inside your EGR valve by that motor on the top, and sometimes that can get stuck, seized, gummed up. If you can clean it out and it still doesn't move, your motor may be seized. Sometimes the push pin inside of it needs to be re-greased. If all else fails, replace it with either a junkyard part that is known to be working, or if you can afford it, buy a new one. They can range from about $150 to about $450 depending where you buy it. Okay, so method 2 is a pretty easy one, and it's one you can do while you're kind of doing method 1. And while your EGR valve is off, look in the 2 ports on your intake manifold and see how plugged up they are. Sometimes they can get so plugged up that they do not allow any exhaust gas to recirculate through the valve and cause the flow malfunction code, which is P0400. What you can do to fix this is get some brass pipe cleaners, some Varsol or brake clean, put it in there and just start cleaning them out. And sometimes it can help. I've seen it happen on some Nissan engines before, but not particularly Subarus. But it can happen. Okay, so now we've reached method 3, and method 3 is the real pain in the ass one because it concerns the fact that not all Subaru EJ253 engines were made equal. So here's a little example of something that can happen in the worst case scenario. Subaru owners have all kind of been there at some point. You've probably had to get your engine replaced. So single overhead cam EJ253s either have an emissions port on the back of the left cylinder head or they don't. And oftentimes when a garage or even an individual swaps a new engine in from, say, a junkyard car or something that they pulled to put in this, or their new car, I should say, it may be a non-EGR equipped engine, meaning that on the back of the left side cylinder head there is no EGR port for you to thread a pipe into. If this is somehow your case, fret not. There is a way to fix it and actually have your EGR working. It involves a lot of work, but here's what you're going to have to do if you don't want to go to drastic measures and put, say, another engine in that has the EGR port on the back of the left cylinder head. First, take a look at where your intake manifold is by the EGR valve. In my case, there was a plug put into it, and you will notice that there is no EGR tube going down to the cylinder head. Pull the plug or anything that's in that port of your intake manifold out. Make sure you have an EGR tube, as you'll need it for the correct thread pitch for the fitting, and cut it in half. Yes, that's right, cut it in half. Next is going to be the fun part, because you're going to have to put the top half of that pipe into the intake manifold, because we're going to be running some extra tubing down to the exhaust. I found that the best solution for this is to buy 3/8 steel line, as it fits inside of this tubing perfectly. Start routing it down past the valve cover of the left side cylinder head to your exhaust manifold. Now, depending on what car you have, your exhaust manifold may differ a bit. Say Subaru Outbacks are different from, say, a Legacy, or different from a Forester and a Preza and so on. Yeah, your mileage may vary on this, but if you have a Forester, you have probably the easiest way to do it. What you're going to want to do is go to, say, Home Depot, and you're going to want a black iron coupling that's threaded for 1/2-inch pipe thread on both sides. This is the exact match for the thread on these fittings for your EGR pipe. Go back down to your exhaust manifold, and what we're going to do is we're going to have to hole saw a hole into the left side manifold to weld on this coupler. I like to do it in between the two ports just for the best amount of flow. You want it as close as possible, but we want it kind of shared between the two so we have lots of exhaust gases to work with. Make sure it's welded good so you have no exhaust leaks, because if you do, it will tick like you have a bad exhaust manifold gasket. Ask me how I know. Now you can put the bottom half of the EGR tube in and keep working on how you're going to route this to go in. And just remember, if you use 3/8 steel line, which I would highly suggest, it will slide right in. So make your cuts and your bends and you'll have something ready to go. And fair warning, getting the pipe into place with the bends, it's kind of a tight fit. Just work with it and make sure you're not hitting any rubber hoses or electrical, because this is going to get hot. And once you're all done, this is how I did it. It won't look pretty, but it will work, and that's what matters. Don't weld this steel tube. It's very brittle. Your mileage may vary, but I found that just wanted to break, so I took JB Weld steel stick and went around the two seams, and that worked perfectly fine.